Today I want to briefly talk about trimming quarter circle blocks made from Drunkard's Path templates. So I am showing a standard template that I have included in my diatom quilt along pattern. This is for 6-inch finished pieces. There are lots of other sizes. I also really like to use the acrylic templates. These are from Jen Carlton Bailey, and you can see that her templates match my reference sizes included in the pattern exactly. And I really like using oversized templates. Now, the convex template is the exact right size. When I say oversized, it's the concave portion of the template that is oversized, and I'll show you what that means by sliding over a pieced example. So using the templates, I cut and pieced my curve, and then this needs to be trimmed up to 6.5 inches square. So I'm just going to lay a 6.5 inch square ruler on top of the block, and you will see that the excess fabric should be cut away from the concave shape. And so in general, the edges of my ruler are going to line up with the edges of the convex shape, and I will have at the 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch mark and 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch mark, I'll have a 1/4 inch seam allowance just barely visible of the concave fabric. So I'm going to trim away these two sides. Get that pulled away. And then because I'm using my rotating cutting mat, I'll just flip this guy around, and then without needing to move the template at all, or the ruler at all, I can just trim up the edges of this block just a little bit where it happens to be a little bit extra. You can see that there's just a little bit of extra fuzz that gets cut away, and that's how I recommend cutting quarter circle blocks or Drunkard's Path. And you'll notice again that you want to end up with a 1/4 inch seam allowance here and a 1/4 inch seam allowance here, so that when this gets pieced and sewn in, you'll end up with the curve right at the very edge of the block very nicely. If you instead trim away from these edges of the quilt, let me turn this guy back around here, and we pull these pieces back here and lay them up back against the block as if it hadn't been trimmed. So if instead we had trimmed from this edge, when it gets sewn, this corner point of the piece will actually look like this in the finished block, and this will be cut away a little bit more, and so you won't have a crisp point if you're trying to have curved pieces meet. So again, you're going to want to trim away from your concave pieces, and these are the generously oversized pieces. If you're working with more exact templates, you will notice that this comes down to a knife edge, right, and you'll have a little bit less width on these legs of your concave pieces. I just find I have a lot more accuracy in my piecing if I have a little bit of oversizing, and I can trim things down to get the precision that I'm looking for. I'll link to a couple extra videos that I've made in the past in the notes below so that you can see other tips that I have for sewing with curves, and I'll see you next time.